Welcome back. Myself Anita Haldar welcomes you once again to look into the structure of atom in detail. So, quantum numbers. Right, now, what are quantum numbers and how they are useful? So, quantum number is a value that is used when describing the energy levels available to the atoms and molecules. Right? We say that n is equals to 1, first shell, second shell, third shell. Okay, so these all cells, right, these all numbers is defined by the quantum numbers. An electron is an atom or ion has four quantum numbers to describe its states and its solutions to the Schrodinger wave equation for the hydrogen atom that we have seen in the previous video, that is Hψ is equals to E psi. So quantum numbers is divided into four parts which will define S, E, D and F about orbitals. The numbers defines about the orbits and these are the subshells of the subparts of the quantum numbers, right? So we have four different types of quantum numbers. They are principal quantum numbers, angular momentum quantum numbers, magnetic quantum numbers, and spin magnetic quantum numbers. Now, how they are different from each other, we are going to check it in detail one by one. So before we go to detail of quantum numbers, let's see the properties of quantum numbers. What does it say? Now, when I told you that is the quantum numbers, we have four different quantum numbers, say such as principal quantum number, angular momentum quantum number, magnetic quantum number, and spin quantum number. So principal quantum number is denoted by small n, which determines the energy, which determines the size, okay, of a particle, atom, element, or a compound. Then angular momentum quantum number contributes to the shape, and magnetic determines the orientation in the space, whereas spin quantum number determines the electron spin. For example, that is L is equals to 0, 1, 2 and 3. Now what is L? L is an angular momentum quantum number. Now if value of L is 0, that means it is having s orbital, p orbital, d orbital and f orbital and so on. So what is actually a principal quantum number is? Principal quantum number n designates the principal electron shell because small n describes the most probable distant states of the electrons from the nucleus. The larger the number n is, the farther the electrons are from the nucleus. The larger the size of the orbital and the larger the atom is. So n can be any positive integer starting at 1. And as n is equals to 1, it designates the first principal shell, that is the innermost shell. The principal shell is also called the ground state or the lower energy state. When an electron is in excited state, it gains energy. It may jump to the second principal shell, that is where n is equals to 2. Now, this is called absorption because the electron is absorbing photons or energy, and known as emission when electrons can also emit energy as they jump to the lower principal shell where n decreases by whole numbers. So as you can see here in the table, that when n is equals to 1, we have k shell and number of electrons will be 2. Then n is equals to 2. And how we are knowing this? That is due to the Bohr's atomic Niels Bohr structure of an atom. We came to know about 2n squared, which gives the number of electrons present in a particular shell. So first shell it is 2 electrons, second 10, third 18, fourth 32. So on, right? When n is equals to 1, the value of L is 0 because L is equals to n minus 1. When n is equals to 2, it has two values, 0 and 1. 3, 0, 1 and 2. 4, it is 0, 1, 2 and 3. And so on. Next, Here you can see that how it is helpful, right? N is equals to 1. So for shell, the electronic configurations will be 1s2. Right, this is the electronic configurations we are doing with the help of the orbitals. Now here we have the orbits, uh, right, K, L, and shell. This is the first shell, K. This is the second shell, L. This is the third shell, M. Correct. S orbital can maximum occupy only 2 electrons. P orbitals can 6 and D can 10. So totally it is 18 electrons. Each shell has definite quantum number n and subshell of L can also be seen. Right? That is, they are the subshells. That is S, P, G and F. They are the subshells. Next comes the orbital angular momentum quantum number, which is denoted by small l, which is also known as azimuthal quantum number. Now, the orbital angular quantum number determines the shape of an orbital and therefore the angular distribution. So we can say the shape, we can see different shapes of orbitals are there. Say S orbital, it is circular, right? It is the oval shape, whereas p orbital, they are dumbbell shape, d orbital, double dumbbell, and f orbital, so on. Now the value of L is dependent on the principal quantum number. Say L is equals to n minus 1. So when n is equals to 1, L will be 0. So n is equals to 1, 2, 3, 4, L will be 0, 1, 2, 3. Next comes magnetic quantum number. The magnetic quantum number ML determines number of orbitals and their orientations within a subcell. Okay, so consequently its value depends upon the orbital angular momentum quantum number L, because we do calculate ML is respectively 2L plus 1 ml, that is equals to 2L plus 1. So we can have a example over here. If n is equals to 3 and L is equals to 2, then what are the possible values of ml? That is, ml must range from minus L to plus L. Then it will be why? Because 2L plus 1, right? 2 into 2, 4 plus 1, 5. So we have minus 2, minus 1, 0, 1 and 2. So here comes the shape of the orbitals, right? That is determined by the help of the quantum numbers. Here we have the shape of s orbital, this is p orbitals, d orbitals and f orbitals. S orbitals, it can, because it is of k shell, so it can accommodate only 2 electrons, hence we have only one s orbital, no other suborbitals. Whereas L shell, right? So we have 8 electrons in L shell, and in L shell, S and P orbitals both are present, as we have seen in the previous slide. So each orbital contains 2 electrons. Hence, we have 3 suborbitals for P, similarly 5 suborbitals for D, and 7 suborbitals for F. Now, what does or how does this spin quantum number helps us? Spin quantum number designates the direction of the electron spin and may have a spin of plus 1 by 2, which is represented by an upward arrow, and minus 1 by 2 represented by the downward arrow. This means that when ms, that is spin quantum number, is positive, the electron has an upward spin, which can be referred to as spin up. And when ms is negative, the electron has a downward spin, which is also referred as spin down. Now, how we are going to determine the atomic orbitals, right? So the number of orbitals in a subshell is equivalent to the number of values the magnetic quantum number NLXR. A helpful equation to determine the number of orbitals in a subshell is 2L plus 1. These equations will not give you the value of ml, but it will help us to know the number of possible values that ml can take on in a particular orbital. For example, if L is equals to 1, then ml can have values minus 1, 0 or plus 1 because ml is equals to 2L plus 1, which can give three different values or three different orbitals. The names of the orbitals are named after the subshell they are found in the table. So it is referred as S, P, D and F. Here comes the periodic table where you can see the different periods with respect to n is equals to 1 to n is equals to 7. Right, and we have 18 group elements. For example, to make it more familiar with how these quantum numbers are useful, I have given you a few more examples. That is, what are the possible subshells when n is equals to 4? How many orbitals are contained by each of these subshells? For when n is equals to 4, how do we calculate L? L is equals to n minus 1. So 4 minus 1 is equals to 3. That is 0, 1, 2 and 3. This implies that four possible subshells are 4s, 4p, 4d and 4f. Because when L is equals to 0, it recommends s orbital. L is equals to 1, it recommends p orbital. L is equals to 2, it recommends d orbital. And L is equals to 3, it recommends f orbital. But which s, p, d and f? As n is equals to 4, which determines the principal quantum number. That means determine which shell it is. That is the fourth shell. Hence, we can come to it that the four subshells, 4s subshell contains one orbital and can hold up to 2 electrons, whereas 4p can hold up to 6, 4d 10 and 4f 14. Right, so there's a total of 4 cells that are possible for n is equals to 4 are 4s, 4p, 4d and 4f. And on the basis of these, we can calculate the number of electrons as well present, that is 2 plus 6 plus 10 plus 14. Next, let us check what are the possible ml values for L is equals to 4. So how do we do it? ml is equals to 2L plus 1. Now what is L? 4. So 2 into 4, 8 plus 1. That means total 9 values can have. And as L is equals to 4, we are going to start with plus minus L to plus L. That is minus 4, minus 3, minus 2, minus 1, 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. Next comes nodal surfaces or simply the nodes. How does this help us? It helps us to identify or to find the probability of the electrons in that particular shell, in that particular orbital. So the region where the probability density function reduces to 0 is called nodal surfaces or simply nodes. Then radial nodes occur when the probability density of wave function for the electron is 0 on a spherical surface or a particular radius. So how do we calculate the number of radial nodes? That is equal to n minus L minus 1. And angular nodes we calculate with respect to, that is number of angular nodes is equals to L and total number of nodes is equals to n minus 1. If n is equals to L is equals to 0, then it comes in L minus 1. Hence, we can determine here the nodes, that is s orbital we have a spherical shape, the point where an electron cannot be located, more nodes and more energy. Next, very important topic, that is shielding effect or screening effect. Basically, this is seen in the d orbitals when we have the higher atomic numbers. Okay, the phenomenon which occurs when the nucleus reduces its force of attraction on the valence electrons due to the presence of electrons in the inner shell. That means shielding effect. Now what is shield? A protective layer. Fine. So, right, when nucleus, valence electron means the outermost shell electrons. So when the nucleus lose its attraction on the outermost shell electrons, and why it will lose? Due to the presence of electrons in the inner shell, then a shield is being created, or we can say this effect as a screening effect. Now, due to the presence of electrons in the inner shells, the electron in the outer shell will not experience the full positive charge on the nucleus. Due to the screening effect, the net positive charge experienced by the electron from the nucleus is lowered. I repeat, due to the screening effect, the net positive charge, as now the outermost shell electron cannot have its positive charge on the nucleus. Therefore, the net positive charge experienced by the nucleus will be lowered, and it is known as effective nuclear charge. Effective nuclear charge experienced by the orbital decreases with increase of the azimuthal quantum number, that is L. As I told you, as the orbital increases, number of orbital increases, they creates a shielding effect or screening effect, and due to that, effective nuclear charge of the orbital will decrease. Let's see how the things are taking place. This is your nucleus, right? Positive charge. That is because of the protons present in the nucleus of an atom. This is the first shell, this is the outer shell, right? And we have the inner electrons. Inner shell will known as inner electrons. Now there is a repulsion between the inner electrons and outer electrons, and hence they move away from each other, which creates a shield between the nucleus and the outermost shell, that is the valence shell. And why this shield is created? Because of these inner shell electrons present over here. Hence, the shielding effect explains why valence shell electrons are more easily removed from the atom, and the effect also explains the atomic size. The more shielding, the further the valence shell can spread out and the bigger the atoms will be. Because how the atomic size gets shrink, if there is an attraction, good force of attraction between the outermost shell electron and the nucleus, then the atomic size will be shrink. But if we do not have any attraction towards the outermost shell electrons and the nucleus, then the atomic size is big. The effective nuclear charge is the net positive charge experienced by the valence electron that we have already explained. Now as shielding increases, the effective nuclear charge will decrease. Now next comes the different principles we will learn about, and we will learn about how the electrons are entering in the orbitals or in the shells. Right, so first we come across the Aufbau principle, which states that in the ground state of an atom or ion, electron fill atomic orbitals of the lowest energy levels before occupying the higher levels. Here you can see on the left hand side of your screen, that is, first the electrons will enter into the 1s orbital, then 2s, and then after 2d, it will be here 2p. Right, instead of 2D, it will be 2P, then 3S, 3P, then 4S, and then it will go to the 3D, 4P. You need to go with the curve. Okay, you need to follow this zigzag pattern. So 1S, 2S, 2P, 3S, 3P, 3D, 4S, 4P, 4D, 4DF, but it is not moving linearly. Can you see? It is entering into the orbital in a zigzag pattern. That is 1s, then 2s, 2p, 3s, 3p, 4s, 3d, 4p, 5s, 4d, 5p, 6s, 4f, 5d, 6p, 7s, 5f and 6d. I hope it is clear. And Aufbau is a German noun which means construction or building up. Next, we have Pauli's exclusion principle. Now, Pauli's exclusion principle says no two electrons in an atom can have the same set of four quantum numbers. Only two electrons may exist in the same atomic orbital, and these electrons must have the opposite spin. So here you can see we have taken an example of an element having atomic number 4. That means 1s2 and 2s2. First of all, as per Aufbau's principle, it will enter the lowest energy orbital and it will fill two electrons with the opposite spin with the help of the Pauli's exclusion principle, and then remaining electron will go to the 2s orbital again with the opposite spin. Next comes Hund's rule of maximum multiplicity, which explains that pairing of electrons in the orbitals belonging to the subshell does not take place until each orbital belonging to that subshell has got one electron each. Right, as we know that p orbital is again further subdivided into px, py and pz. Right, so first of all the electrons will enter into the 1s orbital, that is 2 electrons with the opposite spin as per Pauli's exclusion principle. Then it will enter into the 2s orbital with the help of Aufbau's principle, again with the opposite spin with the help of your Pauli's exclusion principle. Right. Here we have taken the example of carbon, which is having atomic number 6, that is total 6 electrons, and still remaining 2 electrons. So then next we have after 2s orbital, as per the Aufbau's principle, we have 2p orbitals remaining with us. So 2p orbitals, again it has been subdivided into 3 parts, that is px, py and pz. So remaining 2 electrons will enter into 1 subshell each with respect to the Hund's rule of maximum multiplicity. Next, electronic configurations of atom. Arrangement of electrons in different orbitals of an atom is given with the electronic configurations of atom. The electronic configurations of different atoms can be represented in two ways, either with respect to the SPDF notations, or we can go with the help of the orbital diagram. Now, each orbital of the subshell is represented by a box and the electron is represented by an arrow, that is an upward arrow, a positive spin, or an arrow with a negative spin. Now, this orbital diagram we will be learning in detail in chapter number 4, where we are going to learn about the molecular orbital theory with respect to the molecular orbital diagram. Next comes how the stability matters. So stability of completely filled and half-filled subsets. Now symmetrical distributions of electrons. The completely filled or half-filled subshells have symmetrical distribution of electrons in them and are more stable. Whereas in exchange of energy, the two or more electrons with the same spin present in the degenerate orbitals of a subshell. Now, what is degenerate orbitals? That is the suborbitals. P orbitals, we have 3 suborbitals. D orbitals, we have 5 degenerate orbitals, that is the subshells, can exchange their position, and the energy released due to this exchange is called exchange energy. The number of exchanges is maximum when the subshell is either half filled or completely filled. That means the stability of an element is determined by the half filled electrons or completely filled electrons. That means here the electronic configurations matters. Here the Aufbau principle, Pauli's exclusion principle and Hund's rule come into existence. As a result, the exchange energy is maximum and so is the stability. Now quickly we will be seeing an example and get this done in detail. For example, right, we have chromium and we have copper. Okay, from this, what is the atomic number of chromium? That is 18 plus 2, 20 and plus 4, 24. Whereas here as well, it is 29. Now, right, we know we are supposed to write like this. That is 4s2 and 3d4 while following these of-per principle. But actually, we don't do it. Rather, we write it like this. Chromium, argon core, 4s1, 3d5. Then argon core, 4s1, 3d10. Why? Because as we discussed in the previous slide, that is the stability does matter with half filled or completely filled. Now if we know that we have 5 suborbitals or d orbitals and each suborbitals can accommodate maximum 2 electrons, hence 5 suborbitals can accommodate maximum electron are 10. So, if I write 3D10, that means it will be a completely filled. And if I make sure it is 3D5, then it is completely half filled. Right. So, completely filled subshells are more stable than partially filled sublevels. A sublevel which is exactly half filled again is more stable than a partially filled sublevel which is not half full. Electrons are lazy and will do whatever places them in the lowest energy state, which is the most stable state. So in both the examples, an electron moves from 4s sublevel to produce a half full 3D chromium or completely filled 3D copper. Okay, half filled or 3D completely filled copper. Thus gives the atom greater stability, so the change is favorable. Make sure here it is fill, half filled 3D chromium or completely filled 3D copper. I hope the concept of half filled and completely filled, how it is related to stability, is been clear to all of you. So this completes our chapter. Numericals we are going to see in during the online sessions. Thank you. Stay safe, stay immune.